Take a deep breath now, slowly. Let your body grow soft and heavy, like a wool cloak laid gently over your shoulders. Let your arms fall to your sides, palms open. There is nothing left for you to carry. With each breath you take, the muscles in your face soften, your jaw loosens, your brow smooths. The day is behind you now. There is no rush, no effort, only breath, only stillness. You are safe. Let your awareness drift down into your chest, your belly, your legs. Feel how your limbs sink into the mattress beneath you, how the warmth of your blankets cocoon you like the gentle hush of a quiet chapel. There is a wind somewhere, very far away, rustling over hills that were never cleared, whispering through ivy that never burned. That's where we're going now, to a world not quite our own. Our story tonight begins in the year 1397, but not the 1397, you know. In this version of the world, something terrible never came. The plague never swept through the ports and villages. The ships arrived empty of death. The rats were just rats, the fleas just fleas, and life went on, breath by breath, day by day, uninterrupted. And yet, in that silence where catastrophe never arrived, the world did not bloom. It simply pressed forward, crowded, noisy, and unchanged. This is a story of a world that never reset, a world where every heart kept beating, where no grave was dug wider than a man's shadow, where no field went untilled, and no window was shuttered out of fear. It was a world not of peace, but of continuation. The city of Eld Hollow rose slowly from the hills, not like a jewel, but like smoke. At first just a faint suggestion behind the mist. Then shapes, brick, tile, timber stacked too closely, leaning against one another like exhausted bodies. The air was heavy, even at dawn. Not with rain, but with breath. The breath of thousands, tens of thousands, and every one of them alive. You walk into the city as the sky begins to lighten from navy to ash gray. A baker's window opens, and the scent of flour and yeast greets you. Somewhere nearby, a pot of onions stews gently over coals, and you hear a man shouting in the distance about buckets for sale. The streets are narrow, made narrower still by stalls and crates and piles of straw. They were never meant for so many feet, but no one ever left. No one ever died in droves. No gaps were made in the crowd, so the crowd grew thicker. You feel the stones beneath your boots slippery from the rain the night before. The sky threatens more, and above you, 3 floors of timber lean over the street, casting the road into a gentle darkness. From every upper window something dangles. A shirt, a cage of pigeons, a cloth doll. Eld Hollow has no room for emptiness. Even the silence is busy. A cat winds its way between your ankles and vanishes beneath a cart filled with turnips. A boy runs past you, clutching a crust of bread and laughing barefoot in the morning chill. This city has never known collapse, never seen its streets empty of life. It has never feared air or touch or breath, and so it breathes deeply, continuously, without pause. You follow a crooked alley that spirals down between 2 old merchant houses. Their foundations have shifted over the years, leaning so close now their eaves touch. In the small space between them, someone has set a table with 3 wooden bowls. Steam rises. A woman stirs them with a ladle as wide as her arm. Her eyes are kind, but tired. She nods at you and says nothing. She doesn't need to. You're just another face in the tide. The alley opens into a small square, where a blacksmith already has his forge lit. Sparks drift upward into the dim sky, vanishing like fireflies. The clang of hammer on iron is sharp, but not jarring. It has been part of the city's rhythm for centuries. It rings with the same tone as the bells of the abbey, or the cries of gulls over the river. Here, sound is not intrusion, it is life. In our world, when the plague came, it hollowed towns like fruit left in the sun. It left space behind. It made room for new thoughts, new systems, new stories. It cleared the ground for change, but in Eld Hollow, nothing was cleared. No farmer left his field. No cobbler's apprentice inherited a shop because his master had vanished overnight. The structures of power, of duty, of lineage and burden remained intact, unshaken. And so the shoemaker's son became a shoemaker, and his son after him, because nothing stopped them. The guilds remained closed to outsiders. The market stayed rigid. The church never softened its rules to comfort the grieving, because there was no grief to demand it, only the soft ache of monotony. You pass a fountain where water trickles from the mouth of a carved ram. A young woman fills a pitcher and balances it on her hip, her other hand reaching to adjust a kerchief over her head. She hums as she walks. You wonder where she learned the tune. Perhaps it was her mother's or her grandmother's. It has passed through mouths without interruption. No songs were lost. No lines forgotten. All the lullabies still exist. And all the fears remain the same small, daily, familiar. No one here dreams of burning systems to the ground. They dream of warmth and bread and quiet. The sun is rising now, pushing pale gold between the rooftops. The light hits the windows and throws long reflections onto the wet stone. You pass an apothecary with a row of herbs tied to his doorframe. Thyme, sage, wormwood, and lavender. But none of them were hung to ward off plague. They are for flavor, not protection. The man inside grinds seeds with a mortar that has been in his family for generations. He does not look up as you pass. His work does not require him to change. It only requires him to continue. In a narrow courtyard, 3 children skip stones across a puddle. Their shoes are too small, but they wear them anyway. There is laughter sharp and ringing. It echoes between the walls, and for a moment you might believe this world is happy. And perhaps it is, in its own way. For what is happiness if not the absence of disaster, the continuity of familiar things, a world where no one has to say goodbye too soon? But underneath the laughter, there is pressure. You can feel it in the way the buildings lean, in the way the air seems to thicken with each breath. The city has grown not better, but more. And more is not always kind. More hands for every loaf of bread. More mouths for every bowl of soup. More workers for every task. And so the value of each person has thinned like butter over too much bread. Without the plague to reduce their number, they are less precious, more replaceable. The nobles remain. The priests remain. The hierarchy never trembled. As you turn onto a quieter street, the noise fades slightly. You find yourself near the edge of the river, where the houses are smaller, the voices fewer. A boat bobbs gently in the mist. An old man leans against the railing, tossing crumbs into the water for birds that never come. He hums, off-key, the same tune you heard earlier. Perhaps the song belongs to the city itself. Let yourself rest here for a while. Feel the coolness of the stone beneath your hand. Let the river mist touch your skin like a soft cloth. Let your eyes close if they haven't already. There is more to this story, more streets to wander, more truth to uncover. But for now, just listen to the hush of the water and the quiet life of a city that never paused. A gentle breeze rises from the riverbank, lifting the hem of your cloak as you stand near the worn edge of the waterway. The wind carries the scent of old timber and wet stone, mixed with something sweet and distant, perhaps dried figs from a nearby cart, or the tang of cider left open too long in the sun. The world here has texture, not from grand, sweeping changes, but from the slow accumulation of time. Everything is layered, stone over stone, voice over voice, footprint over footprint. No sweeping fire ever came to erase what came before, so the city has never begun again. It has only grown thicker. You begin to walk again, slowly now. The world is quieter near the edge of Old Hollow, but even here the houses still lean close, like old friends whispering. You pass a weaver's shop where a boy of maybe 12 is spinning wool by lamplight. His hands are practiced, too practiced for his age. He has never known a different life. His father still lives, and his grandfather, and his great-uncle who once taught him to dye thread with crushed beetle shells. In this world, family lines run long and unbroken, not because they are strong, but because they are uninterrupted. The wheel of birth and labor turns without a pause. No child was ever pressed into mastery by sudden loss. No girl inherited a stall before she was ready. The apprentices became masters only because they waited long enough. You walk past their windows, and behind the glass, smeared with soot and fingerprints, you see candles burning at the corners of beds. The city is alive with light, not in the way of stars or torches, but in the quiet, flickering way of people constant, busy, breathing. Old Hollow has no memory of silence, and so it fears it. Even in sleep, the city chatters, doors creak, latches click, firewood shifts in the hearth. Somewhere far above you, a wooden flute plays a simple tune with no beginning and no end. You pause at a doorway, drawn by the sound of a kettle whistling. The door is ajar. Inside, a round woman with strong hands is spooning lentils into bowls lined with stale bread. Her sleeves are rolled to her elbows, and her hair is tied with red string. She doesn't look up, but she gestures with a nod, and without words you understand. You sit. The bench beneath you is uneven, worn smooth by 1,000 tired legs before yours. The bowl is placed in your hands, and the heat of it pulses against your fingers. The scent is earthy garlic, vinegar, maybe a pinch of thyme. This is a meal that hasn't changed in 100 years. Not because it's perfect, but because it works. Because there was never a reason to stop and invent something new. The woman sits beside you, sipping from a chipped mug, and for a time, you both eat in silence. Not companionable silence, but the kind that comes when there's nothing left to say. A silence built from knowing, from repetition. Outside, the street rustles with the voices of people passing, always passing, never stopping. The bench beneath you creaks, and the floorboards groan above your head, where someone walks in circles, pacing towards sleep. You finish your food. You thank the woman, though you do not know if she hears you. She has already begun filling another bowl. Back outside, the wind has shifted. The clouds have rolled closer now, low and soft and silver at the edges. You feel the first drop of rain cool on your forehead, and then another slower on your wrist. The streets begin to shine again, the cobblestones catching the lamplight in slick, trembling puddles. You walk with your hands tucked into your sleeves. The rain is not heavy. It falls gently, like something that remembers being fog. As you walk, you begin to notice how the city breathes differently when it rains. The shopkeepers close their shutters just a little, not all the way. The bread seller covers her loaves in waxed cloth, but leaves them out. A butcher leans against his doorframe and watches the water collect in the grooves of the stones. He says nothing. No one moves faster. There is no urgency here. Rain is not an interruption. It is another habit, another part of the rhythm. The city continues at its same pace, unbothered by wet or dry, night or day, sun or soot. You step into a covered walkway beside the old abbey, its arches high above you, sheltering a cloister garden long since overtaken by lavender and moss. A young novice kneels at the far side, gently brushing dirt from the base of a statue. He does not look up. His movements are methodical, reverent, repeated. This statue has never been defaced, never buried to protect it from looters, never destroyed and restored. It has always stood here. The faith of El Hollow, like its people, has remained intact. There was no moment of reckoning, no crowd shouting for answers after half the town was buried, no preacher in the square trying to explain why the innocent were taken first. There was no need for that, and so belief calcified, hardened, grew ceremonial. Inside the abbey, the stone halls echo with the voices of monks reciting evening prayers. Their chant is low, even, without crescendo. The words blur into one another, not in confusion, but in certainty. You feel the vibration in your ribs as you pass by. The warmth of the chapel presses against the chill of your skin, and for a moment you pause. Let yourself lean against the stone wall. Close your eyes, breathe. The scent of beeswax, damp robes, and old wood seeps into your chest. These walls have never been scrubbed of plague rot, never purified after mass burial. They are simply old and clean. And still, further on the city returns. You hear the wheels of a cart rolling through the mud. A dog barks once, then again. The tower bell chimes 11 times. Its voice is steady, unhurried, deep. In your world, cities like this were changed forever by the Black Death. The gaps it left behind were filled with something new: boldness, curiosity, unrest. But here, where nothing was lost, nothing needed to be found. So people continued to walk the same paths, read the same psalms, tell the same jokes by firelight. And in that sameness there is both comfort and constraint. You find yourself beside a garden wall, overgrown with ivy. A wooden gate leans open slightly, and beyond it a small orchard of pear trees sways gently in the rain. A young man sits beneath one of the trees, plucking at a lyre. His melody is soft and circular. He does not look at you, but he nods, as if to say you may listen, and so you do. The music is like the city constant, repeating without urgency. It doesn't lead you anywhere. It simply is. You sit on the low stone fence and watch the trees. The pears are still green, not yet ripe. A droplet slides from the tip of a leaf and lands on your knee. You feel your heart slow, not from fatigue, but from surrender. This place, this rhythm, this quiet pulse of a world untouched by catastrophe. It doesn't ask anything of you. It only asks that you remain, that you continue, that you listen to the lyre and the rain and the breath of a city that never learned to start again. There is more to this story, but for now you may rest here, beneath the pear trees, beneath the sky that has never been darkened by funeral smoke. Let your eyelids grow heavy again. Let your thoughts quiet to a soft hush. There is time. There is always time in Eld Hollow. The night has deepened now, soft and full, wrapping the city in a thick velvet hush. Eld Hollow does not sleep in unison. It drifts one window at a time, one hearth cooling after the next. Some houses still flicker with candlelight, while others sit in the dark, their shutters drawn tight, the low murmur of dreams moving behind them, like wind behind heavy drapes. You rise slowly from the stone fence beneath the orchard trees, the sound of the lyre still faintly trailing behind you like a ribbon in the wind. You take one last breath of the rain-dampened air and step quietly back onto the lane, moving forward with no direction, just a soft curiosity, like one might feel in a long-forgotten library, browsing with no aim but the pleasure of presence. The cobblestones glisten. Small rivulets of water gather in the cracks and run together like silver veins. You walk past shuttered shops and closed taverns, where the laughter of earlier hours still lingers faintly, as though the stones themselves remember it. On one corner, a pair of young men share a lantern and whisper a story too low for you to hear. They nod to you as you pass, not surprised, not startled, just acknowledging your shared presence in a city that never empties. Your feet carry you toward the older part of Eld Hollow, where the buildings sag more deeply and the roads dip and rise in slow, deliberate curves. This is the quarter of the looms. Here the weavers and dyers and tailors cluster in narrow dwellings, hung with ropes of fabric that sway gently in the damp air. Even now, well past midnight, a loom ticks away behind one thick paneled window. Someone is still at work, pulling threads from pattern to pattern, adding another row to a tapestry that has no urgency, only persistence. In our world, this quarter might have vanished during the plague, or at least changed hands. But here, every loom has been passed down like a sacred object. Every dye recipe is memorized, unchanged for 3 generations. The craft is honed, but not questioned. Nothing has broken the chain. You stop near a dye house where the gutters run blue. A low lantern burns beside the door, and the scent of vinegar and wet wool curls around your ankles. For a moment, you imagine all the garments made here, the robes of priests, the cloaks of noblemen, the simple tunics of children too small to understand color. You imagine them all worn, outgrown, mended, passed down again. In this world, fashion is not a revolution. It is an inheritance. Even the city's palette speaks of continuity. Slate and brown, soft indigo, faded greens. No scarlet rebellions here. No sudden black veils of mourning. Just the muted tones of a world that never shuddered. You continue walking until you reach the heart of Eld Hollow, the high square, paved in smooth river stones, where 4 streets meet beneath the old clock tower. It stands like a sentinel above the roofs, its brass face glowing faintly in the mist. The hour hand inches toward midnight. You can hear the faint inner tick, muffled by distance and fog. A warm glow spills from the windows of the guild hall across the square. Not firelight, but candlelight rows upon rows of wax flames burning steady in high iron chandeliers. The guild masters do not sleep early. They review ledgers, compare contracts, ensure that tomorrow will look precisely like today. There are no upstarts in Eld Hollow, no quick ascents. Without death to make room, the young wait long years for their places. In other histories, a plague opened the world to reinvention. Here it remained closed, sealed tight like a wax-stamped letter, its contents predictable, its recipients well known. The son of a cooper becomes a cooper. The daughter of a baker marries a baker. If you wish to be something else, you must go elsewhere. But where would you go? The neighboring cities are much the same, for in this world the great reshaping never came. Across the square you see an old man sweeping the steps of the chapel. His broom makes soft hissing sounds over the stone. He moves slowly but without struggle. He has swept these stairs for 40 years, and he will sweep them tomorrow. There is comfort in this, how the city continues, how it breathes in slow cycles. There is safety here, the kind that comes not from innovation, but from predictability, from knowing what the next day will hold, and the next, and the next. You settle onto a low bench near the fountain at the square's center. The water flows gently from the mouths of 4 carved lions, their features worn smooth by centuries of rain. You lean back, your head tilts toward the sky. A gap in the clouds reveals the stars' soft pinpricks of light in a charcoal sky. The air smells of cold iron and linden bark, and behind it the faintest trace of bread cooling on a windowsill. You close your eyes just for a moment. In the distance the bell chimes midnight. Its tone is deep and resonant, filling the square like warm smoke. Each chime stretches long into the next, and with each you feel your breath grow slower, deeper, heavier. This city has never emptied, never paused, and so its heartbeat has never raced. It pulses gently, like your own, as you begin to drift, and still there is more corners to find, more quiet rooms to sit within, more leaves woven into the endless cloth of Eld Hollow. But for now, you may rest. You are not expected to finish this journey in one night. You are not expected to remember every name, every alley, every scent. The city will be here tomorrow. It always is. It always has been. You begin to walk again, not toward anything in particular, just toward the sound of a distant flute. Its notes are slow, descending one by one like petals. You follow the sound as the city darkens further, the lanterns going out one by one, until only a few warm squares of light remain in second-story windows. A dog barks once, then silence. The rain has stopped. The clouds have parted, and above you the moon emerges pale and watchful. Eld Hollow sleeps now, or something close to it. The parts that stay awake are used to silence, used to watching the world from their windows, used to letting the dark settle over them like a warm wool blanket. And so you let it settle over you too. You turn down a quieter street now, one whose cobblestones are uneven and soft with moss. The houses here are older, deeper in shadow, their shutters closed tightly not out of fear but out of habit. This part of Eld Hollow has always been like this. Time doesn't reach here in the same way. The rain takes longer to dry. The ivy is thicker. The windows lower like eyes half-lidded with sleep. A cat perches on a sill, staring through you as if it's known your presence long before you arrived. You find yourself walking slower, as if the air itself has grown heavier with age. Somewhere ahead, you hear a wooden door creak open, followed by the faint sound of wood being chopped, rhythmic and soft. The sound doesn't echo. It's absorbed by the damp stone, by the moss, by the long memory of this place. No one rushes here. In the absence of tragedy, time stretches gently like dough under careful hands. You stop outside a narrow home. Its walls are bowed inward with age, but the paint on its door is fresh applied with care, layer over layer, each color hidden beneath the next like generations folded in fabric. A lantern glows behind a paper-thin curtain, and from within a song hums softly. A woman's voice, no words, just melody. It flows out through the cracked frame like heat, like something once lost and now remembered. The song isn't mournful. It's not joyful either. It simply exists, the way water exists, unremarkable, until you feel how deeply it holds you. You continue past her window, and the road begins to slope downward toward a stone bridge. The river here is narrow and still. Its surface reflects the moonlight like a sheet of tarnished silver. You stop at the center of the bridge and rest your hands on the cold railing. From here, the city folds away in layers, shingled rooftops sagging under their own history, alleyways that end in darkness, chimneys that lean toward one another like quiet old men. The streets are almost empty now. You can hear your own breath. You can feel your pulse in your fingers. Below, a barge moves slowly, almost imperceptibly, through the water. It is low and wide, and its lanterns glow faint orange against the wet wood. Two figures sit at the helm, wrapped in cloaks. They speak to each other in murmurs, their words swallowed by the river's hush. You wonder how long they've been traveling, if they were born on the water, if they'll sleep there tonight. In a world where no plague ever forced people to flee, there are still wanderers, those who drift not from fear, but from a kind of quiet longing. The wind shifts again, carrying the scent of something unfamiliar, smoked pears, maybe cedar. It's faint, but it grounds you. You draw in another breath and hold it. For a moment, everything stills. The city, the bridge, the night itself. Nothing moves. Then the wind sighs again, and you exhale slowly, your shoulders easing, as if they've been holding tension you didn't even notice. You leave the bridge and follow the road that curves behind the apothecary's district. Here the buildings are narrow but tall, with steep staircases and crooked chimneys. The cobblestones give way to packed dirt lined with old bricks, slick with the evening's rain. You pass a garden where a woman is collecting chamomile by candlelight, her hands quick and practiced. She hums a pattern with every sprig she pulls, as if the rhythm guides her. She doesn't look up, but you sense she sees you all the same. There's no surprise in her expression. This city is used to watchers, to listeners, to quiet company in the shadows. Further down, you pass the silent windows of a schoolhouse. A slate board still stands outside its door, the day's last lesson, only half erased. You pause and read the words in the flickering light. No interruption, no change, only the line that holds. You wonder if the teacher meant history, or fate, or maybe it was just a grammar exercise. In Eld Hollow, those lines are often blurred. Meaning seeps into everything like tea into old cloth settle, deep, unspoken. You find a small bench nestled beside the school's stone wall. It's damp, but you sit anyway, the coolness grounding. In front of you, the city stretches onward, its buildings layered like old book pages. you feel yourself slowing again. Not just your steps, but your thoughts, your heartbeat, your breath. It's as if the city is breathing with you now, or perhaps for you. Each flicker of lantern light, each shiver of a drying roof tile, each creak of wood in the rafters above all of it pulses in rhythm with your own quiet interior world. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the quiet fill you. Not silence, but quiet, a hush filled with life. You can still hear a woman pouring water, a man locking his door, the flap of a linen curtain in a breeze, a dog sighing in sleep. These sounds don't demand your attention. They simply keep you company, like the steady whisper of a lullaby in a language you don't need to understand. When you open your eyes again, the clouds have cleared. The moon is bright above the eastern rooftops, and its light casts long, soft shadows down the alleys. The world is still, not frozen, just resting. Like you begin to walk again, slower now, letting your hands brush the stone walls as you go. The texture is familiar, rough in some places, smooth in others, polished by centuries of touch. Eld Hollow is a city held together by contact. The press of hand against wall, a foot against step, a voice against ear. Without interruption, it has become a city of pattern, of habit, of quiet repetition. And still it holds you, gently, as if you belong here, as if you always have. As you walk, the streets begin to widen once again. You're nearing the market square now, though the stalls are long packed away, and the canvas awnings folded neatly for morning. But the scent remains spices and dried fruit, soft hay, wood smoke, and the faintest trace of roasted chestnuts clinging to the air like a pleasant memory. Even in stillness, the market lingers. Its spirit doesn't sleep, not fully. The cobblestones here are smoother from countless steps, rubbed down by generations who have never had to flee, never had to abandon their wares in panic. Every morning the vendors return, and every evening they go home again, not because the world insists on it, but because it always has. You wander toward the fountain at the center, a circular stone basin fed by a carved arch shaped like a lion's mouth. The water gurgles gently, clear, and steady. You can see coins beneath the surface, some fresh, others dulled with age. They glimmer under the moonlight, resting peacefully in the silt. A wish without urgency, you think, tossed with hope, not desperation. In this world, no one throws coins for healing that cannot come. They wish instead for sweeter wine, or a warm winter, or a child who will speak early and walk strong. You sit on the fountain's ledge and listen. Far off, someone plays a soft drum, the beat slow and deliberate. A lullaby for a city too old to need rocking. The sound carries across the square, gentle as breath. A window opens above a bakery, and a hand reaches out to hang a basket on a pulley. A second later, the rope creaks as it lowers to the alley below. A neighbor retrieving bread, a gift. The quiet rhythm of exchange, of mutual need, continues like everything else here, low, patient, unremarkable. You lean your head back and let your gaze rise. The stars are brighter now, the last clouds having wandered away. The constellations look the same, though they feel older somehow. Not because they are, but because no one here ever forgot them. Without the plague to cut away memory, every story lived on. Every tale about the hunter, the fox, the long-armed woman who sowed the sky passed from mother to daughter, father to son, uninterrupted. In your world, the plague left gaps, generations lost, stories broken in the middle, but here the myths are whole. They stretch back without rupture, a line uncut. You begin to feel your thoughts drifting, not away from the city, but deeper into it, as if your mind is beginning to fold itself into the cobbled seams of Eld Hollow. You no longer walk with the curiosity of an outsider. You drift as though this has always been your pace, your place, your rhythm. You turn down a narrow lane now, guided only by instinct. The buildings press in close again, their roofs nearly touching above you. Laundry lines stretch like spider silk between windows. The fabric is motionless in the still air, the occasional droplet of rain falling from their corners onto the stones with a soft clip. You walk quietly, your footsteps barely audible. Even the city seems to step lighter here. Eventually you come to a small courtyard tucked between three ancient buildings. There is no sign, no name, just a low stone wall surrounding a square of mossy ground. A single tree grows in the center, a linden, old and full, its branches spread wide like arms half outstretched in welcome. You approach slowly and sit at the edge of the low wall. The tree doesn't move. It only is the same as everything else in Eld Hollow, existing without expectation, rooted not just in soil, but in time. Around the courtyard, small candles flicker in holders set into the stone walls. Someone tends them, perhaps a caretaker, or perhaps the city itself has learned to keep its corners glowing without need for reminder. You watch one flame dance gently, casting a golden oval against the green bark of the tree. The air here is warmer, more still, like a room that holds its breath just long enough to let you sleep. You feel your limbs grow heavy again, not with weariness, but with calm. Your eyelids soften. The world around you pulses with a rhythm older than rest. You could sleep here, you think, on this bench, beneath this tree, beneath this sky. You would not be the first. And yet, something stirs in the distance. Not loud, not sharp, just a movement, a shift in tone. Like the city is turning a page you didn't know it was reading. You rise slowly and begin walking once more, this time toward the sound. It's a bell, smaller than the cathedral bell, thinner, a timekeeper's bell. It chimes once, then twice, then once more. 3 chimes. You pass a small window where a man with silver hair pulls the cord with a gentle hand. He looks at you as you pass. He nods. His eyes are kind. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. In Eld Hollow, acknowledgement is an offering in itself. The road bends again, bringing you to a row of tiny shops built right into the outer wall of the old fortress. Their ceilings are low, their doors uneven. Inside you see shelves of wooden toys, dried herbs, wax candles, shaped like animals. A soft glow comes from within, though none are open. The windows are fogged slightly from the cool air pressing against warm interiors. Even the glass here seems to sleep. One shop window holds your attention. It's filled with books, some bound in leather, others in rough cloth. The pages are yellowed but clean. You see names handwritten on their spines, delicate lettering in ink that never ran. You wonder how many people have read them, how many never needed to, how many were written simply to be kept. You place your hand gently on the glass, feeling the chill. The books do not move, but something within you does. A small part of you stirs just enough to notice, not quite awake, not quite dreaming, something like remembering. You leave the shop behind and find yourself walking now not on cobblestones, but on earth. The ground is soft beneath your boots. You've wandered beyond the main streets to the edge of the garden quarter where stone gives way to soil. Here the city thins, not empties. El Palo never empties, but it relaxes. The houses are smaller, fewer stories. The fences lean with ivy. Bees sleep in their hives. The hedgerows whisper with mice. A lantern hangs from a low branch ahead, lighting your path. You follow its pull, letting it lead you deeper into this quieted corner. The wind is gentle here, threading through your hair like fingers brushing aside stray thoughts. You begin to hum softly without choosing the tune. Perhaps you've always known it. Perhaps the city taught it to you. And still, the night grows deeper. The lantern above you sways gently in the breeze, casting soft, golden ripples across the dirt path. Each step you take feels quieter than the last, as though the earth itself were cushioning your weight, welcoming you deeper into stillness. There's no rush here, no direction to be hurried toward, just a winding of the world around you, gentle and loose, like a shawl being drawn around your shoulders at the end of a long, long day. You walk past a small well. Its bucket is tied off and the rope slack, resting in a groove worn smooth by years of repetition. No one draws water, now not because it isn't needed, but because everyone in El Hollow has already learned to prepare before the sun sets. The city doesn't live on urgency. It lives on rhythm, on knowledge passed down, not in books, but in habit, in gesture. You could stand here and imagine all the hands that have turned this crank, lowered this bucket, tasted the coolness of the water rising from the dark earth. None of them are remembered in monuments or ledgers, but they're remembered here, in the stone, in the rope, in the groove. Farther along, you reach a small crossroads with no signs, no names. One path leads into a narrow grove of trees, their branches tangled, heavy with dew. Another curves around a low stone wall into what looks like an orchard. And the third simply continues straight ahead, disappearing into the deeper folds of the night. You pause for a moment. You feel no pressure to choose. The city will not punish you for wandering. It exists to be walked, to be noticed, to be felt. You choose the orchard path. The smell of damp bark and ripening apples draws you in. The trees are spaced evenly, each one bearing fruit in different stages, some swollen and red, others green and small, others nearly ready to fall. A fox moves silently between the trunks, pausing to glance at you before slipping out of sight. The ground here is soft with moss and fallen leaves. You walk slower, letting the sound of your footsteps dissolve into the quiet. There's a bench here, worn smooth by time, nestled beneath a gnarled pear tree. You sit, and as you do, a single apple drops to the ground not far from you with a gentle thud. It startles nothing, not even you. The orchard is tended, though you see no fences, no signs of ownership. In El Hollow, not everything belongs to someone. Some things simply are, shared, preserved, trusted. The fruit falls and is gathered, the trees pruned, the ground cleared. Not because anyone commands it, but because someone always remembers. You lean back, closing your eyes for a moment. A soft breeze brushes past your face, carrying with it the scent of chamomile and cedar and something warm, something old like worn parchment and faint ink. You imagine just briefly what it might feel like to live in this world, not as a visitor, but as one who has never known anything else. A child born here would never ask what came before, because nothing ever left. There are no empty houses, no missing names, no hushed stories about the year the world grew quiet. Here everything kept going. No morning ever turned into revolution. No gap ever made way for the unexpected. And so the unexpected never came. But still there is beauty. In the pattern, in the stillness, in the way the fruit ripens without fanfare, in the way stories continue without needing to be retold. You listen now, eyes still closed, and you hear it, the whisper of branches overhead, the shuffle of a bird in the underbrush, the creak of an old tree adjusting its weight. The city breathes even here, at its quietest edge. It watches, it waits, not for anything to change, but simply because it always has. You rise once more and continue along the orchard's edge, until the trees thin, and the ground begins to harden beneath your feet. The path grows wider, bordered now by small stone markers carved with faint runes. You pass a wooden gate, left open. It leads into a tiny graveyard, and here, for the first time, Eld Hollow feels different. Not darker, not colder, just stiller. The quiet here is deeper, but not from fear. The names carved into the stones are not reminders of loss. They are reminders of continuity. Each headstone bears a name, a date, a blessing. The dates stretch far back, centuries in some cases, but they don't cluster. There are no sudden gaps, no decade marked by a spike of death. The rhythm of life has been mirrored in the rhythm of rest. People died, as they always do, but never in waves, never in crowds, and so the city grieved gently, one candle at a time, one bell, one memory. You walk slowly through the rows, your fingers brushing the tops of the stones. Lichen curls at the corners. Ivy wraps one in a gentle embrace. At the far end, you find a bench beside a flowering shrub lavender or rosemary. It's hard to tell in the dimness. You sit again. The scent is comforting. Sharp but familiar. You lean your head back, and the sky above seems larger here, less interrupted by rooftops. The stars shimmer like a memory on the edge of sleep. You wonder if the people buried here would have lived differently in another version of the world, a world where change was forced upon them, where choices had to be made quickly and under pressure. Perhaps, but here they had time. They had long years of sameness, of rhythm, of continuity. You do not know if they wished for more or less. You only know they are remembered not as exceptions, but as part of the whole. And now you too are part of it. Not forever, not yet, but for this moment you belong to the rhythm, to the quiet, to the city that never forgot how to continue. The bench is warm from your body. The wind has stopped. The candle near the gate flickers once, then stills. And you are softer than you were. You rise from the bench quietly, as though not to disturb the resting. Your footsteps make no sound now, absorbed into the earth beneath you, softened by moss and memory. The air feels different here, not thinner, just more aware of itself, as if even the breeze knows it has entered a sacred rhythm. You pass through the small wooden gate once more, pausing to brush your fingertips along the worn frame. Someone carved initials there once. They've faded almost completely now, swallowed by the years, by the sun and the rain, by the gentle passing of countless hands. The path takes you back toward the outer edges of Eld Hollow. The city's heartbeat is slower here, but no less alive. Small lanterns still glow behind narrow windows, their light steady and golden, warm as breath against cold glass. You pass a baker's house, the scent of tomorrow's loaves already blooming through the shutters, sourdough, oat, something rich with honey. You pause without meaning to. The comfort is involuntary, deep, an instinct older than thought. This is a city that bakes not because it must feed survivors, but because it always has. Morning will come, the bread will be ready, and that, too, is a kind of peace. The road curves gently, guiding you uphill now, toward a ridge that overlooks the eastern boundary. You walk slowly, savoring the shift in air, the way it grows cooler, crisper, touched by night wind and distant forest. The stars are clearer from here, the moon lower, its reflection beginning to fade into dew on slate roofs far below. As you crest the rise, the view opens wide, and you stop again. All of Eld Hollow stretches out before you, a patchwork of rooftops and chimneys, soft smoke curling like thread through the still air. Lanterns dot the streets like floating embers. There are no street lamps, no uniform glow, only the scattered light of life being lived, the glow of soup being ladled, of wood being stacked, of letters being written, hands trembling slightly from cold and candlelight. From up here, the city feels small but not insignificant, intimate, worn, steady. You sit on the low stone wall that borders the ridge. The stone is cool beneath you, worn smooth from years of others doing the same. There are initials carved here too, a small heart, a date, 1233. You trace the lines with your fingers and smile without meaning to. That was centuries ago. And someone sat here, exactly where you are sitting, and felt the same breeze, looked out at the same crooked rooftops, listened to the same night sounds drifting up from the market quarter below. In Eld Hollow, time doesn't erase. It accumulates. You rest your elbows on your knees and tilt your face toward the sky. A shooting star cuts across your vision and disappears before your breath can finish. You don't make a wish. You don't need to. In a world untouched by collapse, there is less urgency and hope, less desperation. Wishes here are small things, hoped for but not preyed upon. Simple things, a kinder winter, a safe birth, a wheel that turns smoothly. Behind you, a fox scampers through the brush, quick and quiet. It doesn't startle you. The rustle feels like punctuation, the city speaking in commas, not exclamations. A soft reminder that you are not alone, not truly, not even in the quietest corners. Especially not in the quietest corners. You stand once more and follow the path that winds along the ridge, the city still visible below on one side, the dark shape of the woods rising on the other. You hear the faint hoot of an owl, distant, ancient, as if echoing not from the trees, but from the marrow of the night itself. The path narrows, but your steps do not falter. You feel it now, that sense of being led not by force, but by rhythm, as though you are part of a story already being told, one that doesn't ask you to act or decide, only to follow. At the edge of the ridge sits a small wooden structure, round and squat, with a thatched roof and no windows. A watch hut, perhaps, or a place of solitude. You approach the door and find it slightly ajar. Inside there is no furniture, only a mat of woven straw and a low brazier, where a small flame burns with no fuel in sight. The warmth is immediate, wrapping your ankles, your knees, your hands, your heart. You step inside and pull the door gently shut behind you. You sit on the straw mat, cross-legged, hands resting in your lap. The flame in the brazier flickers low, steady, without smoke. It hums softly, like a lullaby forgotten by language, but remembered in feeling. You let your gaze soften. You breathe. Your thoughts drift, not outward, but inward, until all that remains is the sensation of breath, the sound of fire, the pull of stillness settling over you like snowfall. In this world where nothing was ever erased, nothing had to be replaced, and so the flame you sit beside is not new. It may have been burning for centuries, tended without question by hands that knew only the comfort of repetition. You don't know how long you sit there. It doesn't matter. Time here is not measured in minutes. It is measured in heartbeats, in the weight of eyelids, in the soft collapse of tension. Eventually you rise again, gently, slowly, the kind of movement that feels like the second half of a dream. The brazier glows behind you as you step out once more into the night. The city below hasn't changed. The stars above haven't moved. And yet, you have. You follow the path back down into Eldhollow. You are not eager. You are not tired. You are simply ready. The slope is soft beneath your feet, cushioned by grass and the first touch of dawn's dew. As you descend the ridge, the hush of night begins to give way to a different kind of quiet one that holds the subtle tremors of waking. Not alarm clocks or chimes or bustling feet. Just the faint exhale of windows opening, the creak of beds being eased out of, the long silence of bread beginning to rise in its pan. The city does not start its day with a jolt. It eases into morning as it eases into everything else with continuity, with rhythm without interruption. You pass a row of houses pressed shoulder to shoulder along the edge of the southern hill. One window glows soft gold as the shutters open inward and a hand reaches out, shaking water from a damp cloth. Another window follows, and then another. Eldhollow awakens one room at a time, like an old man stretching each limb before he rises. The sound of wood splitting echoes softly from a distant alley. A broom scrapes against stone. The faint murmur of voices inside homes begins to weave its way into the air. You walk through this early breath of the city, wrapped in its stillness, watching as the veil of night lifts slowly, gently, without hurry. A blackbird hops along a rooftop, peering down at you curiously. Its feathers catch the new light and shimmer blue at the edges. It sings a note, just one, then flutters away into the mist that still lingers near the steeples and chimneys. Mist has a way of resting longer in cities that have never rushed. Your path curves gently around the chapel you passed earlier. The bells have not rung yet. The doors remain closed. But the candles inside are already flickering. Through the stained glass windows, dim light wavers like water, painting the stones in golds and reds that feel warmer than fire. You pause to rest your hand against the outer wall. The stone is cold, smooth, full of time. You wonder how many hands have pressed here before you, how many others paused in silence, asking nothing, offering nothing, only being. Down the hill, the square is beginning to stir. The fountain gurgles quietly in the center. The market stalls are still empty, their wooden frames waiting patiently for baskets, cloths, and hams. A young boy with a bundle of herbs slung over his shoulder walks barefoot across the square. He stops to tie his shoe even though it's already loose again, and as he stands, he catches your eye. He smiles. It's not the smile of greeting or recognition. It's simply the soft acknowledgement of one soul seeing another in the same rhythm. You continue past the well and into a smaller side street where the buildings grow closer again. This part of the city is older, still older even than the cobblestones, older than the chimneys. Here the stones are uneven and the windows are low, peering up at you like eyes from beneath heavy brows. You pass a door with 7 iron nails in the shape of a star, another with a wreath of dried lavender. These homes are not marked by addresses. They are marked by memory, stories passed on in shapes and plants and the sound of hinges and footsteps. As you move through the hush of these alleys, you begin to hear something new. Music, not a flute, not a lyre this time, a voice, low, female, steady. The words are unfamiliar, perhaps an old dialect, perhaps no words at all, but the tone is gentle. A lullaby meant not for babies, but for the walls, for the morning, for the breath of a day beginning exactly as the last one ended. You follow the voice for a while, not with urgency, just curiosity. You don't need to find her. It's enough to walk within her song. The path turns, the sound fades, but your breath has changed, slower, quieter. Soon you find yourself in a garden square enclosed on all sides by brick and vine. A single bench waits near the center, beneath a tree so tall it touches the roofs above. Its leaves are dark and thick, and the branches sway though the wind is light. You sit, not because you are tired, but because you are welcome. The city exhales around you. Windows open, doors creak. The smell of smoke and bread and fresh apples rises in gentle waves. You watch a moth flutter near a lantern, hesitant. A cat stretches across a windowsill and then disappears inside. A woman passes by the edge of the square, carrying a basket of linens on her head. Her dress is simple, her steps quiet, her face unreadable. She does not look at you, but somehow you feel acknowledged all the same. The garden is surrounded by walls, but they don't feel enclosing. They feel protective, as if you found your way to the center of something, not the city, but the story, the breath of this world, the still point inside the turning rhythm. You lean back against the bench, the wood warm from morning sun, now reaching over the rooftops. You think again of the world that could have been, the world you know, a world where illness swept through streets like fire, burning away the old to make room for the new, where graves were dug with haste and lives were reshaped by loss, where innovation bloomed from absence. But here, none of that ever came, and the result is not brilliance, not revolution, not despair, just endurance. Eld Hollow is a city of breath, a breath not held, not gasped, not choked, but continuous, even, rhythmic, inhaling, exhaling as it always has, as it always will. And you, dear listener, have joined that breath for a while, for long enough, but now your body is asking for stillness. Your thoughts have slowed to a gentle drift. Your breath is deeper, your hands looser, your eyelids heavier. Let the bench cradle you. Let the city fade around you. Not vanish, not end, just fade. It will still be here when you wake. You don't remember standing again, but somehow you're walking once more. Your footsteps slow, thoughtful, even softer now, if such a thing is possible. The garden square slips behind you like the last page of a book gently turned, its warmth lingering in your chest. The city seems quieter now, not in the absence of sound, but in the way a room feels after someone has lit a single candle and left. Light that doesn't demand attention. Warmth that doesn't rush. As you move through the lower alleys of Eld Hollow, the sun begins to make itself known in earnest. It rises behind the hills to the east, stretching long fingers of light through every narrow opening, climbing across stone and slate. The rooftops gleam wet with dew, and the lanterns still burning begin to pale in comparison, but none of them are extinguished yet. No one in Eld Hollow rushes to greet the morning. The transition is always slow, always gentle. A cart rolls slowly across a bridge ahead, led by a gray mule with patient eyes. The driver hums softly, rhythmically, a tune that might be centuries old. His cart is filled with straw, and nestled within the straw are jars, glass, corked, sealed with wax. You wonder what they hold. Honey, perhaps, or jam, or something more unusual. You'll never know. The driver doesn't stop, and you don't ask. In this world, not everything needs to be understood. It is enough to witness. You follow the path over the bridge, pausing at the center to glance down at the water. It is calm now, almost still, reflecting the underside of the clouds with perfect clarity. A heron stands at the far bank, frozen in place, its long neck curved like a question mark. The question, perhaps, is never spoken aloud here. It simply rests in the air, unasked and unanswered, as the heron watches the water and you watch the heron. And still the city breathes. You step off the bridge and back onto cobblestones, now warm underfoot. A cat darts past with a string of ivy caught around its tail. Somewhere to your right, a door slams softly, followed by the unmistakable creak of an old chair being dragged across a wooden floor. The sounds are not sharp. They're softened by time, worn smooth by the repetition of decades, perhaps centuries. Everything here seems to carry its own hush, like snow that never fell, but still muffled the edges of things. You turn down a street that feels older than most. It is barely a street at all, just a long, winding corridor between the backs of buildings. Here, laundry hangs from windows, not in neat rows, but in tangled garlands, colors faded by sun and wind. A pigeon coos from a roof beam, fluttering down to peck at crumbs scattered beneath a windowsill. The air smells of rosemary and ash, with a trace of something sweet perhaps, stewed apples cooling behind a shuttered kitchen. At the end of the corridor, the city opens again. You step into another square, smaller than the last, shaded by a great tree whose trunk splits into 3 thick branches not far from the root. Around the base of the tree, a circle of low stone stools has been placed. None of them match. One is cracked. One has initials carved deep into its surface. One leans slightly to the left. You sit again, this time without even realizing it. Your body has grown so in tune with this rhythm that even your movements follow it now. The breeze stirs and the leaves overhead shiver gently. The sound is like the hush of paper being turned in a distant library. A few petals fall from the tree's upper branches, tiny white stars drifting down into your hair, onto your lap, vanishing before you can catch them. You close your eyes. Let them fall where they will. Let the breath move through you like wind through branches. There is nothing here that needs holding, only observing. You think, perhaps, of the cities you've known. The ones that rose quickly were hollowed by tragedy, rebuilt again in haste and hope. Cities shaped by urgency, by upheaval, by need. But Eld Hollow was shaped by patience, by accumulation, by uninterrupted breath. And as strange as that might seem, it also feels at this moment like safety. A child's laughter floats by, not loud, not startling, just the sound of joy being released like a balloon into a sky with no ceiling. You smile, though you're not sure why. That, too, is part of this city's charm. It lets you feel without needing reason. It welcomes your breath. It holds your silence. You remain on the stone stool for a long time, or perhaps not long at all. Time has become so fluid now. A pool without ripples. A bell that chimes not to signal, but to soothe. You could stay here forever, and maybe you do in some small way. Even as your feet rise, even as you turn to walk again, some quiet part of you remains in that circle of stools, beneath that ancient tree, letting the petals fall onto your skin. You walk once more, down another street, past a shop that sells combs and brushes, their handles carved from wood so pale they gleam like bone, past a woman stitching the hem of a dress by firelight, past an old man feeding crumbs to a crow who seems to know his name. You walk not because you are searching. You walk because you are a part of the walking now. Because movement is rest, and stillness is also a journey here. A bell chimes once, the smaller bell, not the cathedral. A chapel bell, or perhaps one from a school. The tone is clean, clear. It slices the air without cutting. It simply arrives, and then leaves, like everything in Eld Hollow. And so you walk, until the city begins to fade behind you again. Not completely. Just enough. Just the edges softening like paint left out in the sun. There will be more paths, more turns, more quiet places where the rhythm holds you. But for now, you are drifting. And Eld Hollow is dreaming with you. End of batch 9-1,500 words. The sky has warmed now, just barely. The gentle blue of approaching morning kisses the edges of the rooftops, softening the sharp lines of the chimneys, washing the moss-covered bricks in a hue too pale to name. Eld Hollow does not burst into daylight. It eases toward it, one color at a time. You walk with the hush of it, your breath aligning perfectly with the air around you, as though the whole city has taught you how to move, how to listen, how to be. You follow a road lined with ivy-covered walls. The stone beneath the vines is older than memory, perhaps older than the first house that was built atop it. The vines twist and coil like time itself, growing with slow patience, uninterrupted year after year. No war tore them down, no plague stripped them away, and so they bloom. You round a bend and arrive at what looks like an old library, its doors wide open, though no one seems to enter or leave. The building is low and square, its roof shingled in deep, rust-colored tiles. Along the windowsills, clay pots filled with herbs and dried roots catch the soft light, and inside you can already sense the cool, thick stillness of paper and ink. You step inside without hesitation. The scent greets you first-aged parchment, cedar shelves, wax-polished floors, a quiet older than your name. There is no clerk, no desk, no eyes watching you from behind spectacles. Just the endless hush of presence. The shelves are close together, but not crowded. The books are worn, but not falling apart. each one labeled with a soft hand, as though the letters were written more for the book than for the reader. You run your fingers along the spines as you pass, reading the titles: seasonal rotations of root crops, the year without frost, bread from wild yeast, the line that holds, none are loud, none are urgent. They are quiet companions to a quiet world, records of doing things the way they've always been done, of how not to change, of how to keep the rhythm. You take a small book from a shelf without thinking. It's wrapped in linen, tied with twine. You don't open it. You don't need to. Holding it is enough. It hums faintly in your hand, not with magic, but with memory, with use, with care. You sit in a wooden chair beside a narrow window. Outside, a bird lands on the sill and peers in. It doesn't startle. It simply watches, its small eyes full of a knowledge you don't need to name. Behind it, the city moves in slow motion. A horse walks past, its hooves muffled on dirt. A woman dips a cloth into a bucket and wrings it out with quiet strength. A baker laughs, the sound barely rising above the hum of the morning. You lean your head against the window frame and let your eyes soften, just enough to blur the edges of the world. Eld Hollow, for all its steadiness, is beginning to dissolve in your vision just slightly, not because it's fading, but because you are sinking, deeper now, heavier, looser, and the weight you carry is no longer in your limbs, but in your dream. You stay in the library a little longer. The book in your hand remains unopened, but warm. You wonder who held it before, whose breath touched its pages, whose hands tied the linen. The thread is old, but strong. The corners are smoothed by use, not neglect. This book is not forgotten. It's simply resting. And so are you. You rise eventually, and set the book gently back on the shelf. You do not remember where you took it from, but it doesn't matter. The shelves remember. The room will remember. You walk back into the street with the memory of the pages still lingering on your fingertips. The road welcomes you like a familiar hand. You pass by an old man sweeping the front step of a herbalist's shop. He nods to you as you pass, the bristles of his broom dragging softly against stone. There's no rush in his movement, only the comfort of repetition. Behind him, the shop's door is propped open, and the smell of dried chamomile, sage, and mint coils out into the street like steam. A young girl leans over a row of bottles inside, labeling them in tiny, looping script. She hums softly. The tune is familiar now. You find a low stone wall nearby and sit again. You don't need to go far anymore. Eld Hollow has already taken you in. The weight of the bench beneath you, the roughness of the wall against your back, the warmth of sunlight on your shoulder, each is an invitation to stillness. The kind of stillness that belongs not to silence, but to belonging. Around you, the city has settled into its morning pace. Neither slow nor fast, neither loud nor quiet, just steady, just enough. Horses pull carts down the main road without urgency. A bell chimes 3 times mid-morning now. Someone is pouring tea from a blue-glazed pot, the sound faint but unmistakable. Footsteps tap across a wooden balcony above your head, and from somewhere behind a shuttered window, a lullaby is still being sung, to a baby, to an elder, to the city itself. And now your body is beginning to sink again, your limbs still, your thoughts softer. Eld Hollow has taken you from waking to walking to wandering to rest, And now to drifting. Let it hold you. Let the city remain somewhere just beneath your dreams. Let it breathe with you, because the Black Plague never came here, because no one ever had to run, because the world never reset, because everything continued, and so shall you. Sleep now. You don't need to walk anymore. You've seen the streets. You've tasted the air. You've followed the rhythm of a city untouched by interruption. Now the stillness of that truth wraps around you like linen, soft, breathable, unbreaking. You are part of it now, not a visitor, but a thread in the fabric, woven in so gently you hardly noticed when it happened. The sunlight filtering through the clouds is pale and warm, like milk poured slowly into tea. The rooftops glint faintly where the last of the dew clings. A cat curls on a doorstep and sighs once, deeply, as though finishing a thought too old to share. A wheel turns somewhere nearby, and a woman's laugh rises briefly, light as a bird's. Wing before disappearing into the folds of stone and air and breath. You're no longer keeping track of time. Time in Eld Hollow is not a straight line, it's a spiral. Each breath loops into the next. Each morning folds into the one before it. No one here asks when. They ask how often and how long and how gently. In this world, everything returns, not because it must, but because it always does. You close your eyes now, not from tiredness, not even from calm, but because the city has slowly dimmed around you. The sounds are still there, the soft sweep of broom against stone, the creak of laundry swaying, the whisper of a page turning in a window seat just above your head. But they feel distant now, not unreachable, but no longer necessary. A soft breeze passes. It carries nothing but itself. No message, no meaning, just air, moving through time like water through cloth. It doesn't disturb you. It doesn't stir your thoughts. It simply passes, like everything in Eld Hollow eventually does. You find yourself remembering pieces now, small, gentle details. The crooked sign above the inn, the boy at the fountain, the orchard where the fox paused to listen, the way the library smelled like dried lavender and ink. These are not stories. They are not lessons. They are the threads of a dream that does, not wish to be understood, only felt. And what you feel now is weightlessness, a heaviness that anchors you, yes, but without effort, without pressure. Your chest rises and falls like the distant bells that mark the passing of another hour. You don't know which hour. You don't need to. The city knows. The city keeps time so that you no longer have to dot in a world where the Black Plague never came, where the silence of loss was never allowed to hollow out the center. People lived longer, but not louder. They lived as rivers do, flowing in the grooves laid down by their ancestors, rippling, deepening, carving, but never rushing. They carried stories instead of urgency. They traded memory instead of change. And still, they loved. They danced. They argued. They healed. Just gently, without the push of catastrophe. Perhaps in this dream you have become like them. A breath among breaths. A hush among HUSHES. And so the last sound you hear before sleep fully claims you as not a voice, not a bell, not even your own heartbeat. It is the city itself breathing you in, and holding you at last in rest.